Amman is the capital and most populous city of Jordan, and the country's economic, political and cultural center. Situated in north-central Jordan, Amman is the administrative center of the Amman Governorate. It has an estimated population of 4 million and a land area of 1,680 square kilometers. Today, Amman is considered to be among the most liberal and westernized Arab cities. It is a major tourist destination in the region, particularly among Arab and European tourists. The earliest evidence of settlement in the area is a Neolithic site known as Ain Ghazal. Its successor was known as Rabat Amman, which was the capital of the Ammonites, then as Philadelphia, and finally as Amman. It was initially built on 7 hills but now spans over 19 hills combining 27 districts, which are administered by the Greater Amman municipality headed by its mayor Akel Biltaji. Areas of Amman have either gained their names from the hills or valleys they lie on, such as Jabal Vabda and Wadi Abdon. East Amman is predominantly filled with historic sites that frequently host cultural activities, while West Amman is more modern and serves as the economic center of the city. Approximately 1.9 million visitors arrived in Amman in 2014, which ranked it as the 84th most visited city in the world and the 4th most visited Arab city. Amman has a relatively fast-growing economy, and it is ranked B- on the Global City Index. The city is among the most popular locations in the Arab world for multinational corporations to set up their regional offices. Alongside Doha and only behind Dubai, it is expected that in the next 10 years these 3 cities will capture the largest share of multinational corporation activity in the region. Etymology: Amman derives its name from the 13th century BC when the Ammonites named it Rabat Amman, with the term Rabat meaning the capital or the king's quarters. Over time, the term Rabat was no longer used and the city became known as Amman. The influence of new civilizations that conquered the city gradually changed its name to Amman. In the Hebrew Bible, it is referred to as Rabat Amman. However, Ptolemy II Philadelphus, the Macedonian ruler of the Ptolemaic kingdom who reigned from 283 to 246 BC, renamed the city to Philadelphia after occupying it. The name was given as an adulation to his own nickname, Philadelphus. History: Neolithic period in the outskirts of Amman. One of the largest known ancient settlements in the Near East was discovered. The site, known as Ain Ghazal, which is situated on a valley side, dates back to 7250 BC and spans an area of 15 hectares. It was a typical average-sized Aseramite Neolithic village that accommodated around 3,000 inhabitants. Its houses were rectangular mud-bricked buildings that included a main square living room, whose walls were made up of lime plaster. The site was discovered in 1974 as construction workers were working on a road crossing the area. By 1982, when the excavations started, around 600 meters of road ran through the site. Despite the damage brought by urban expansion, the remains of Ain Ghazal provided wealthy information. Ain Ghazal is well known for a set of small human statues found buried in pits which were discovered in 1983. When local archaeologists stumbled upon the edge of a large pit 2.5 meters containing plaster statues. These statues are human figures made with white plaster. The figures have painted clothes, hair, and in some cases ornamental tattoos. 32 figures were found in 2 caches, 15 of them full figures, 15 busts, and 2 fragmentary heads. 3 of the busts were 2-headed, the significance of which is not clear. Rabat Amman: in the 13th century BC, Amman was known as Rabat Amman by the Ammonites. Amman provided several natural resources to the region, including sandstone and limestone, along with a productive agricultural sector, which made Amman a vital location along the King's Highway, the ancient trade route connecting Egypt with Mesopotamia, Syria and Anatolia. As with the Edomites and Moabites, trade along this route gave the Ammonites considerable revenue. Ammonites worshipped an ancient deity called Moloch. Excavations by archaeologists near Amman's civil airport uncovered a temple, which included an altar containing many human bone fragments. The bones showed evidence of burning, which led to the assumption that the altar functioned as a pyre. Today, several Ammonite ruins across Amman exist, such as Qasr al-Abd, Rujm al-Malfouf and some parts of the Amman citadel. The ruins of Rujm al-Malfouf consist of a surveillance stone tower that was used to ensure protection of their capital and several storerooms east of it. The city was later conquered by the Assyrian Empire, followed by the Persian Empire. Hellenistic period conquest of the Middle East and Central Asia by Alexander the Great firmly consolidated the influence of Hellenistic culture. The Greeks founded new cities in the area of modern-day Jordan, including Kis, Jerish and Amman. Ptolemy II Philadelphus, the Macedonian ruler of Egypt, who occupied and rebuilt the city, named it Philadelphia, which means brotherly love in Greek. The name was given as an adulation to his own nickname, Philadelphus. One of the most original monuments in Jordan, and perhaps in the Hellenistic period in the Near East, is the village of Iraq al-Amir in the valley of Wadi al-Sur, southwest of Amman, which is home to Qasr al-Abd. Other nearby ruins include a village, an isolated house and a fountain, all of which are barely visible today due to the damage brought by a major earthquake that hit the region in the year 362. Qasr al-Abd is believed to have been built by Hyrcanus of Jerusalem, who was the head of the powerful Tobiad family. Shortly after he began the construction of that large building, in 170 BC upon returning from a military campaign in Egypt, Antiochus IV conquered Jerusalem, ransacked a temple where the treasure of Hyrcanus was kept and appeared determined to attack Hyrcanus. Upon hearing this, Hyrcanus committed suicide, leaving his palace in Philadelphia uncompleted. The Tobiads fought the Arab Nabateans for 20 years until they lost the city to them. After losing Philadelphia, we no longer hear of the Tobiad family in written sources. Roman rule. The Romans conquered much of the Levant in 63 BC, inaugurating a period of Roman rule that lasted for 4 centuries. In the northern modern-day Jordan, the Greek cities of Philadelphia, Gerasa, Gedara, Pella and Arbela joined with other cities in Palestine and Syria, Scythopolis, Hippos, Capitolias, Canatha and Damascus to form the Decapolis League, a fabled confederation linked by bonds of economic and cultural interest. Philadelphia became a point along a road stretching from Eilat to Damascus that was built by Emperor Trajan in 106 AD. This provided an economic boost for the city in a short period of time. During the late Byzantine era in the 7th century, several bishops and churches were based in the city. Roman rule in Jordan left several ruins across the country, some of which exist in Amman, such as the Temple of Hercules at the Amman citadel, the Roman Theatre, the Odeon, and the Nymphaeum. The 2 theatres and the Nymphaeum fountain were built during the reign of Emperor Antoninus Pius around 161 AD. The theatre was the larger venue of the 2 and had a capacity for 6,000 attendees. It was oriented north and built into the hillside, to protect the audience from the sun. To the northeast of the theatre was a small Odeon. Built at roughly the same time as the theatre, the Odeon had 500 seats and is still in use today for music concerts. Archaeologists speculate that the structure was originally covered with a wooden roof to shield the audience from the weather. The Nymphium is situated southwest of the Odeon and served as Philadelphia's chief fountain. The Nymphium is believed to have contained a 600-square-meter pool, which was 3 meters deep and was continuously refilled with water. Early Islamic to Ayyubid period. In the 630s, the Rashidun army conquered the region from the Byzantines, beginning the Islamic era in the Levant. Philadelphia was renamed Amman by the Muslims and became part of the district of Jund al-Urdun. A large part of the population already spoke Arabic, which facilitated integration into the Caliphate, as well as several conversions to Islam, under the Umayyad caliphs who began their rule in 661 AD. Numerous desert castles were established as a means to govern the desert area of modern-day Jordan, several of which are still well preserved. Amman had already been functioning as an administrative center. The Umayyads built a large palace on the Amman citadel hill, known today as the Umayyad Palace. Amman was later destroyed by several earthquakes and natural disasters, including a particularly severe earthquake in 747. The Umayyads were overthrown by the Abbasids 3 years later. Amman's importance declined by the mid-8th century after damage caused by several earthquakes rendered it uninhabitable. At some point after the mid-8th century earthquake, and certainly from the 15th century onward until 1878, Amman became an abandoned pile of ruins only sporadically used for shelter by seasonal farmers from elsewhere who used the arable land of the area, and by Bedouin tribes who used its pastures and water. Excavations among the collapsed layer of the Umayyad Palace have revealed remains of kilns from the time of the Abbasids and Fatimids. The occupation of the Citadel Hill by the Crusader Kingdom of Jerusalem is so far based only on interpretations of Crusader sources. William of Tyre writes in his Historia that in 1161 Philip of Milly received the castle of ɑː́mɑːn as part of the lordship of Ultra-Jourdain, which is seen to refer to Amman. In 1166 Philip joined the military order of the Knights Templar, passing on to them a significant part of his fief including the castle of ɑː́mɑːn, or Haman, as it is named in the deed of confirmation issued by King Amalric. The remains of a watchtower on Citadel Hill, first attributed to the Crusaders, now are preferentially dated to the Ayyubid period, after 1187, leaving it to further research to find the location of the Crusader castle. Ottoman rule. The Ottoman Empire annexed the region of Amman in 1516, but for much of the Ottoman period, Al-Salt functioned as the virtual political center of Transjordan. After about 1,000 years without recorded history, Amman was only resettled starting from 1878, when hundreds of Circassians arrived following their exodus from the Caucasus during the rule of Sultan Abdul Hamid II. Between 1872 to 1910, tens of thousands of Circassians were forcibly relocated to Ottoman Syria from historical Circassia by the Russian Empire during the events of the Russo-Circassian War. English traveller Lawrence Oliphant wrote of a visit to the settlement of Amman in 1879 in his The Land of Gilead. Ottoman records from 1906 show around 5,000 Circassians living in Amman and virtually no inhabitants who spoke Arabic. The city's demographics changed dramatically after the Ottoman government's decision to construct the Hejaz Railway, which linked Damascus and Medina, and facilitated the annual Hajj pilgrimage and trade. Because of its location along the railway, Amman was transformed from a small village into a major commercial hub in the region. British Mandate period. The First and Second Battles of Amman were part of the Middle Eastern theatre of World War I and the Arab Revolt, taking place in 1918. Amman had a strategic location along the Hejaz Railway. Its capture by British forces and the Hashemite Arab army facilitated the British advance towards Damascus. The second battle was won by the British, resulting in the establishment of the British Mandate. In 1921, the Hashemite emir and later king, Abdullah I, designated Amman instead of Al-Salt to be the capital of the newly created state. The Emirate of Transjordan, which became the Hashemite Kingdom of Jordan in 1950. Its function as the capital of the country attracted immigrants from different Levantine areas, particularly from Al-Salt, a nearby city that had been the largest urban settlement east of the Jordan River at the time. The early settlers who came from Palestine were overwhelmingly from Nablus, from which many of Al-Salt's inhabitants had originated. They were joined by other immigrants from Damascus. Amman later attracted people from the southern part of the country, particularly Al-Karak and Madaba. The city's population was around 10,000 in the 1930s. Post-independence, Jordan gained its independence in 1946 and Amman was designated the country's capital. Amman received many refugees during wartime events in nearby countries, beginning with the 1948 Arab-Israeli War. A second wave arrived after the Six-Day War in 1967. And a third wave of Palestinian and Jordanian refugees arrived in Amman from Kuwait after the 1991 Gulf War. The first wave of Iraqi refugees settled in the city after the 1991 Gulf War, with a second wave occurring in the aftermath of the 2003 invasion of Iraq. Most recently, a wave of Syrian refugees have arrived in the city during the ongoing Syrian civil war which began in 2011. Amman was a principal destination for refugees for the security and prosperity it offered. In 1970, Amman was a battlefield during the conflict between the Palestine Liberation Organization and the Jordanian army known as Black September. The Jordanian army defeated the PLO in 1971, and the latter were expelled to Lebanon. On 9 November 2005, Al-Qaeda under Abu Musab al-Zarqawi's leadership launched coordinated explosions in 3 hotel lobbies in Amman, resulting in 60 deaths and 115 injured. The bombings, which targeted civilians, caused widespread outrage among Jordanians. Jordan's security as a whole was dramatically improved after the attack, and no major terrorist attacks have been reported since then. During the last 10 years, the city has experienced an economic, cultural and urban boom. The large growth in population has significantly increased the need for new accommodation, and new districts of the city were established at a quick pace. This strained Jordan's scarce water supply and exposed Amman to the dangers of quick expansion without careful municipal planning. Today, Amman is known as a modern, liberal and westernized Arab city, with major mega-projects such as the Abdali Urban Regeneration Project and the Jordan Gate Towers. The city contains several high-end hotel franchises including the Four Seasons Hotel Amman, Sheraton Hotel Amman, Fairmont Amman, St. Regis Hotel Amman, Le Royal Hotel and others. Geography. Amman is situated on the East Bank Plateau, an upland characterized by 3 major wadis which run through it. Originally, the city had been built on 7 hills. Amman's terrain is typified by its mountains. The most important areas in the city are named after the hills or mountains they lie on. The area's elevation ranges from 700 to 1,100 meters. Al-Salt and Al-Zarqa are located to the northwest and northeast, respectively. Madaba is located to the west and Al-Karak and Mana to Amman's southwest and southeast, respectively. One of the only remaining springs in Amman now supplies the Zarqa River with water. Climate. Amman's position on the mountains near the Mediterranean climate zone places it under the semi-arid climate classification. Summers are mildly hot and breezy, however, 1 or 2 heat waves may occur during summer. Spring is brief and warm, where highs reach 28 degrees Celsius. Spring usually starts between April and May, and lasts about a month. Around the end of November is the period in which winter usually starts and continues from early to mid-March. Temperatures are usually near or below 17 degrees Celsius, with snow occasionally falling once or twice a year. Rain averages about 300 millimeters a year and periodic droughts are common, where most rainfall between October and April. At least 120 days of heavy fog per year is usual. Difference in elevation plays a major role in the different weather conditions experienced in the city. Snow may accumulate in the western and northern parts of Amman above sea level, while at the same time it could be raining at the city center. Amman has extreme examples of microclimate, and almost every district exhibits its own weather. It is known among locals that some boroughs, such as the northern suburb of ɑː́mmäːn, are among the coldest in the city, and can be experiencing frost, while other warmer districts such as Marka can be providing much warmer temperatures to its inhabitants at the same time. The temperatures listed below are taken from the weather station at the center of the city, which is at an elevation of 767 meters above sea level. At higher elevations, the temperatures will be lower during winter and higher during summer. For example, in areas such as Al-Jubaihah, Swalair, Kalda, ɑː́mmäːn, which are at higher than 1,000 meters above sea level, have average temperatures of 7 to 9 degrees Celsius in the day and 1 to 3 degrees Celsius at night in January. In August, the average high temperatures in these areas are 25 to 28 degrees Celsius in the day and 14 to 16 degrees Celsius at night.